Hello everyone, in today's video we're going to be flying the Ryan. Now this is an interesting airplane. It is a purpose-built aircraft for extreme long-range flight. And it has a lot of, I guess I'm going to call them design choices that just make it a little interesting to fly. So the good news is it is a unique piece of history, and the bad news, as you can probably see from looking at the front, yeah, it's a little weird. Let's get started. So climbing into this thing, I'm just blown away by just the history here. We've got looks like some canvas here. I've got a wicker chair. I don't have a safety belt or anything like that. I love the fact that one of my critical inductor compass knobs is located right here, and we'll take a look at that in a little bit. We have our throttle controls. We have an anti-ice control. We have a manual fuel pump in case that kind of happens. A million little cutoff rings in case I need to do some of that. And then we have a train. I'm sorry, it's a panel. I'm expecting to be sticking my head out the window and, watching train signals go by as I'm flying this thing right now. But the reality is look at this panel. There's nothing. And also there's very little forward visibility. As a matter of fact, zero forward visibility. Unless, of course, you do one of these, in which case you can actually see that you deploy a periscope, which enables you, if you look at the front here, you can actually see what is in front of you. But as you can kind of tell, it's not nearly as helpful as you really want it to be. So you're relying a lot on your peripheral vision. Now, this aircraft is heavy. So if I actually were going to weight and balance real quick, you can see that we're not carrying a couple pounds of fuel here. We are actually carrying 2,600 pounds of fuel right now, which is absurd for a single-inch propeller-driven aircraft. The other thing you're going to notice is we have no attitude indicator-ish. We have these two little for our tick. And you also probably notice going through the different controls here, there's a lot of these little valves. Again, this thing reminds me of a locomotive. It just reminds me of an airplane. So enough complaining. Let's do some flying. So first things first is I love this little panel over here, which I kind of walks through all the different magnet, but we're not going to worry about that today. But instead what we're going to do is we're going to get this thing going. Pretty straightforward process. The manual basically describes setting the magneto. We're going to give it a couple puffs of prime here, nothing too excessive. Go ahead and crack the throttle. Like I said, nothing crazy here at all. And now we have to hand crank the prop. Now, normally what you do is you run out here and give this thing a turn, but you don't. But the people who designed this aircraft were nice enough to provide you a little click. And once it, of course, catches, you want to go ahead and reduce the RPM to about 1,000. By the way, that was the world's most aggressive hand crank of a prop. I am impressed. Whoever pulled that thing did better than any start of any aircraft I've ever encountered in my entire life. So we'll give everyone a couple moments to go ahead and warm up here. We've got a couple different instruments that are worth checking out. We have, of course, our fuel pressure, which looks pretty nominal to me. We have our engine temperature, which is slowly warming up. I love how it's Department of the Navy for everything. We have RPM, which looks good. Our turn bank indicator, our speed looks pretty good. Clock, we have an altitude. Look at this old school. If you need to calibrate it, of course, you can come up here and crank this. But unfortunately, this is just a stress button right now, which is kind of a shame because that looks pretty cool. Good old school Pioneer compass here. This is really neat, and I'll show you how this works in a minute. Like I said, it's pretty fun. A couple little lights. If you need to turn an instrument panel, if you actually come back, let me go zoom my out. Now you have this little panel lights thing, so you can turn it up, and you have the world's weakest little battery for the purposes of kind of doing that. So now we're good to go. I'm going to go ahead and taxi this thing around. When it comes to taxi, there are a couple different philosophical ways to do it. I'm a huge fan of CFI AC, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to open up the door handle here, and I'm just going to climb outside for a second, and we have ourselves the simplest way to taxi this thing around on the ground. Whoops, that helps if you actually stay in the correct position when you do that, though. Hey, work with what you got. So I'm going to go ahead and release the parking brake, give it just a little bit of power, and this thing's going to start rolling. Now, this one's pretty old school. It's a differential braking. If you don't have differential braking, like I do not, usually people, what they'll do is they'll set like a key on the keyboard or something like that. It allows them to kind of go around and sort of line themselves up. So if you don't, of course, there's always my favorite technique, which is the ground handling method, where you just kind of line yourself any which way that you want, and now you're ready for takeoff. Takeoff on this thing is interesting. I'm going to go ahead and close the door for takeoff. We don't need a speed brake as we're going here. Generally with takeoff, what you're doing is concentrating on not flipping the aircraft over or smashing its nose. Remember, there's a ton of weight in front of you. So any touch of the brakes is going to flip you forward. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to release the brake. I'm going to go ahead and give it a little bit of power. There we go. And we're just going to smoothly apply full power. We're going to hold the stick back a little bit towards our chest. And we're just going to apply a little bit of right rudder. Now, we have a little bit of a crosswind today, so I'm applying just a little bit of aileron as well to kind of keep that wing kind of planted. Remember, we are a tail-dragging aircraft here. Don't mind the fact I'm about to kind of bisect this runway here. Sorry about that. We're just going to continue the acceleration. The aircraft's going to start loosening, getting light, but we don't want to do anything too chaotic. Our initial speed is going to be about 86 knots, believe it or not, or 86 miles an hour. They hadn't invented the knot yet, apparently. There's about 60 hitting ground effect. We're going to keep ourselves in ground effect. A tree just went by. Notice, by the way, the incredibly long takeoff distance here. We'll keep us on the ground just a little longer. And we're on our way. Let's do just a little tiny bit of climb. I don't want to hit any of these trees. Now, notice how absurdly long that takeoff was. And notice how close I got to hitting a stall there. The whole aircraft started buffeting pretty viciously. So again, it's just a couple of those things that'll make it chaotic. So one thing that you could do is you could say, well, can I fly from up front? Sure, we can do one of those. We can stick our head up here. We can go like this. But as you can see, that doesn't really do anything for us. It actually doesn't do much for our view at all. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pull this back in like this so it's not sticking out and creating some drag. Again, not a big difference. Now, as we're cruising here, I'm going to go ahead and give myself a little bit of trim, make it a little bit easier. There we go. That's about 0 degrees. That's looking pretty good. Man, I'm getting bounced today. This is fun. That looks a little better. Nice. All right, so that's about 0. Go ahead and bring the inclinometer around a little bit. Remember, this instrument is reversed, so we actually want to come to this direction if we don't want to do that. Pull that nose up, and we're pretty much ready to go. So when you operate this aircraft, you kind of operate it out the side. That's kind of the safest and obvious way to do it. One thing I recommend is, remember, this is a flight sim, so there's nothing stopping you from kind of doing one of these things with your head, just so you get a better view of everything that you're doing here. And you can see it kind of spinning around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start slowly pulling myself over to the west here. It's about west right now. I'm just going to cancel out that rotation. For those of you who use external instruments, great news for you. The external instruments work great. You'll be able to see all the different measurements you need to. So again, all I'm using is that little kind of inclinometer, little bubble there to kind of let me know that what I am, about flat right now. And I'm heading due west. It's looking pretty good. We're going to go ahead and throttle back. I don't have an exact detail as far as what throttle settings to use here. Knowing Lindbergh, though, he probably would have used relatively low power, and he probably would have been messing with the mixture extensively throughout the flight in order to master the amount of stuff that's actually going to be going through here. So going through real quickly, those all look good. Got all my fuel tank valves. Those all started open, so I don't have to stress about it. But look at how many little valves you have to turn at the different fuel tanks for perfect balance. So I'm at about 2,000 RPM. That's working out to be about 65% power, which looks pretty good at this time. Now, one of the things I was talking about is this fancy pants compass down here. You got this little induction compass. So what is this thing all about? I'm actually nervous to look down. It's not like I can't see, you know? So what we're going to do is we can use this to go ahead and set a heading. Now, this is a very, very, very precise device. This is not something that, you got to kind of be tiddlywinks with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and select the heading of, whoa, have fun with that, by the way. You're going to do that about 50 times. We're going to set about west, which is going to be right there. It looks pretty good. And now you're going to notice, do you see that my little compass in the middle here? Do you notice how it's now pointing this little left or right indication? Do you see how it's saying I'm slightly too far to the left? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the aircraft a little bit to the right, and I'm going to go ahead and straighten myself back out. And what you're going to notice is this little Pioneer compass, this little electromagnetic device there, now tells me I need to be slightly more to my left in order to proceed on course. So I'm going to go ahead and rotate myself, and bam, I am on course. So what you're looking at here is an old school analog heading bug. So when this needle starts shifting this way, it means you need to come to the right on the course you selected. When it shifts this way, it means you need to come to the left. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like an old Doppler navigation kind of set, but like I said, a little less sophisticated in that regard. So we're just going to cruise around, and we're going to get ourselves over to a nearby airport real quick and show you how obnoxious this thing is to land. All right. Getting ourselves ready for our landing. So first things first, we need to start approaching. Keep in mind this aircraft is going to be a heck of a lot lighter when you land than when you take off. This is not an airplane that you're going to be doing touch and goes with. It's just a little bit too much runway. So we have our little periscope there. I'm going to lie my head pretty carefully, and I just kind of come over to the right, and you can see I got myself a lovely little runway there. Now the approach speed in this aircraft is listed out being between 80 and 90 miles per hour. I'm not sure what a mile per hour is. It must be some kind of proto-imperial unit of some kind. I just don't know. It's strange. It's like the must be like a different variation of the kilometer an hour, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, so what we're going to do is we're going to be making an approach to landing on this particular aircraft. Now, this thing is tricky to land. Now, I've flown a couple different airplanes over the years in flight sims, but this one probably takes the cake. So what I'm going to do is we're going to try to go ahead and do a regular tail low landing. We definitely want to keep the plane in such a position where we have some view of the runway, but we also want to make sure our speed is appropriate. So now, a few of you are probably saying, can we fly like this? Absolutely. I think this is a completely valid technique, because basically what you'd be doing is sticking your head out the window and kind of coming in like this. Now, of course, works because our window is open and we're able to kind of line ourselves up. The downside of this strategy, of course, is I have no idea what my airspeed is, and I know it's supposed to be 80. So you end up doing something that looks a little bit like this. So you're coming in for an approach, you're trying to get yourself somewhere between 80 and 90. Your head's turned and you're all sort of discombobulated. Now, some of you are like, well, can I do one of these instead? Aha, indeed you can, but now we can't see the runway. So what I recommend instead is kind of doing a combination where you can see the airspeed indicator at the same time as be able to see a little bit out of the periscope here. So I kind of like a view over here on the right. So the big thing you got to watch out for is your perspective. When you shift your head up like this, you're going to notice that it's going to appear that we're kind of high up and we have a bit of nose, which means when we finally do go to flare to put this thing on the ground, you're going to be at a very, very, very strange angle. You know exactly what I mean. So I'm actually going to pop back out real quick, stick my head a little over so I can kind of get a feel for the runway. Again, there we go. That's perfect right there. All right, we're just going to come over the runway. Like I said, we're doing about the right speed here, which is, like I said, about 80 to 90. Now, this thing you have to kind of be careful with, and don't touch the brakes. I'm going to go ahead and smoothly pull the throttle back. I'm going to leave just a tiny bit of throttle in. Engine's going to start slowing down. The aircraft's going to be heavy, and we're trying to do a 3-point landing here. So just hold that attitude and just play with the throttle. So if you see the nose start to sink, give it just a tap of throttle. Like I said, don't pull back any further because you really don't want to come hard down on the nose there. There we go. Just a few more RPM. And we're just going to settle nice and gentle. There we are. Perfect. So now what we're going to do is we're going to play the try not to go off the runway game. Don't forget to use a little bit of aileron to keep you grounded. And do not touch the brakes. One thing I am doing right now is I'm pulling the stick all the way to my chest right now. And I'm just going to ease those brakes just a little tiny bit. Don't stomp them. If you stomp them, you will smack the propeller very, very hard on the ground. Go ahead and hold those brakes. Like I said, take your time. Take your time. Once the aircraft starts to slow down, you really got to be ginger, because otherwise you will do the world's most aggressive faceplant with this aircraft. There we go. Nice. Ooh, that was quite a process to get this thing down the ground. Now watch this. So like I said, any amount of braking will destroy this aircraft. So as we saw with this aircraft, a pretty neat airplane. The big thing is when you start it, you got to hand prop it. The other thing you want to watch out for is obviously being very careful with the brakes. And then the final thing is when you go to your approach, you're looking for between 80 and 90 knots and try to do a tail landing by using the throttle as aggressively and smoothly as you can. Enjoy.